Okay, everybody, let's just talk about week 3 assignments. So, from day 1, you should have the homework building with toothpicks and then exploring houses. Again, that's not very many questions. I think it's like a total of 5 questions or something like that. But it might take you a while to actually kind of build those things and work with them or count them or see the patterns or whatever. Okay. The participation class or grade for that first day is going to be the Don't Fence Me In. I'd say you can just email me an email with how many haystacks did it take to fence in 100 cows. So if you watch the video or if you figured it out for yourself, you can do that. I will upload the Don't Fence Me In just so that you can see it. But the last question on that page is how many haystacks for 100 cows? And hopefully you did the math and you saw how that works. So you don't have to take any pictures or send anything to me or do anything on that handout. Just email me the answer to that question, and that'll be your in-class participation grade for that day. Okay? Again, I planned too much for this week, stinkers, so you get out of the stretching sequences. We'll do that next week. Instead, we're going to do the stacking cups activity as our in-class, and I'll show you that in just a second. And then the sequence patterns for homework. So let me show you the sequence patterns. It looks kind of like this. Well, exactly like this. And you're literally just filling in the patterns for the next 3, okay? If you need more space, well, in fact, I'm going to say this. Please write this out on your own paper because you're going to need more space. Because it doesn't just say find the next 3 terms in the sequence. It says briefly explain the pattern you see. So, for instance, I'm going to cheat a little bit on this first one. I see plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, right? So if I see that what I'm doing is adding 3, then my explanation is add 3. It's easy enough, right? So that can be pretty easy to figure out your overall pattern. But then down here we see more difficult ones. Okay, maybe there's some geometric versus arithmetic stuff going on there. And then at the bottom there's a word problem, and there's a little bit of thinking going on in this last one. What is the digit in the ones place if you do 2 to the 57th power? So you got to think a little bit about that. Maybe look at the pattern. That might help, right? Okay, so think about that. That's your homework from the day 2 stuff. It should meld in really well with the notes that I just took. The in-class would be, I actually think this in-class would have probably happened on the first day. I just ran out of, not time on that first video, but just I ran out of go-go juice, sorry. So I just had to stop, I'm sorry. This is the stacking cups. So this is something we would do in class, and I'll show you how it works. Basically, you've been asked to do some marketing and some packaging and that kind of thing for cups for this one particular company, and you need to figure out how tall a stack of 50 is and this and that, so you can figure out the packaging. So read through that and see. I'll show you what it would look like in class. Okay, so in class we would have different sets of cups. And I would literally give you a set of cup and then some kind of measuring device, probably a ruler. And I would say, okay, why don't you measure how tall 1 cup is? Okay, and then why don't you measure how tall, 2 cups are, and 3 cups, and so on and so forth. Now, we're not going to put together 50, which is what it asked me for in that example. So I need to, instead of actually labeling, counting up 50 and figuring out, measuring exactly how tall they are, I need to find a pattern, and I need to go from there. Because this is only one kind of cups that this particular company makes. See, they don't just make the little blue ones. They also make the big green ones, okay? So the big green ones are going to be different, right? And as you work through this, what you would see, and I want you to kind of think about it, and if you can, maybe some of you have, I don't know, some red Solo cups or something like that around your house, or it could even be like glass cups, glasses that will stack. You can do a little bit of measuring, and you can do this activity on your own, which is what I want you to do. But what you're looking at is you can kind of see in the green ones really well. There's a difference in here, right? Oh, I used the word difference. That might tell me this is what kind of a sequence. Arithmetic or geometric? Ooh, think about it. And then go to your notes from that video from day 2 and see what you know about that kind of general formula, because I want a pattern for this. I want a general pattern. So what I see is, hey, the first cup might be this tall, but then I've got, for lack of a better word, a lip here that adds every time a certain distance every time I put the next cup on. And if the cups are made uniformly, then those distances should be the same, right? So get a stack of cups at your house, measure 1 cup overall. That's my first term in the sequence, right? Measure 2 cups total height, measure 3 cups total height, measure 4 cups total height, and then see what the difference is between those, and that should be the distance that is added each time I put in another cup. Does that make sense? Okay, so they don't just make the green ones, by the way. They also make the little bitty styrofoam ones, and somewhere I have some big styrofoam ones, but I don't know where they are. So here we go, little bitty styrofoam ones. Here it's really easy to see the lip, right? So I can pull out 1 cup. Okay, there's the 1 cup, yay. Or I can say, hey, what's the lip, or what's the difference that's added each time I put a cup in? Okay, so the difference that's added, they come down, they just get stuck right there, right? And the reason they're getting stuck is because of that lip. So again, 3 different kinds of cups. If we were in class, I actually have about 8 different kinds of cups, and I would make you say, okay, for the large green ones, these are my measurements. For the small blue ones, here are my measurements, and then I'd make you compare with other people and see, okay, how tall do we think a stack of 50 is going to be? So for your house, instead of doing that though, you can just do 1 stack. So find 1 type of cups or glasses, be careful with glasses, that will stack. Okay, they should have a common difference that can be added each time you add a cup. Okay, so you have to set up your experiment, so to speak, in the right way. So that's what you're doing, is you're adding those things. By the way, this particular activity is called stacking cups, but in workshops with teachers in public schools, I've done stacking bowls. I've done stacking chairs. I've done all kinds of stuff. So it doesn't have to be cups. Cups are just easy for me to transport from place to place. But you can do other kinds of stacking things, right? And so what you're going to do is you're going to find those cups, and then you're going to measure how tall is 1. That's what you want to figure out. So find that measurement. And then you want to figure out how tall are 2. And I'd say do 3 and 4. If you can at least have a stack of 4, then that gets you a pretty good idea of what the difference is. So then you're going to find your difference. Again, that's basically your lip, but not necessarily. Sometimes cups, like, even though they don't have much of a lip, sometimes they just don't slide down on top of each other. Like you can kind of see that in the green. It's not necessarily a lip, because the lip's just this little bitty bit, but it's just the way that they're created. They don't quite slide all the way down to where the lips are touching. That's different than in these styrofoams, because they definitely touch all of their lips, they slide down until they get to the lip, right? So figure out your difference, whatever that is. It's not necessarily the lip. And then work the rest of the worksheet. So work out how tall is a stack of 50. And then be careful because they also ask you to figure out what are the packaging dimensions. I think that's right. Dimensions. Anyway, they also ask you to figure that out. Yay, very good. Okay, so think about that, because if you just give exactly the stack of the 50, how tall that is, then your packaging won't quite go around it, right? So you're going to need to figure out some little bit of leeway, right? So a little bit of margin of error to allow for the wiggle room, so to speak, that I need in there. So work through that particular thing. Again, we would have probably done that on day 1, but I just ran out of go-go juice when I was making that video. I apologize for these being a little bit late putting together, but that's how it is, I'm afraid. So you're going to do that stacking cups, and I don't remember if I said read chapter 2. So that's the last thing on your assignment page, read chapter 2. All right, that's it. So I'll post this all in D2L, and let me know if you have questions. All right, see you next week.